It was a muggy Thursday evening, 28th June, 2007. Two men walked into a pub car park one night in Glasgow for a brutal confrontation over unpaid debt. A month later, one was found stuffed and sealed tight in an oil drum at the bottom of the Clyde. The other vanished, leaving a trail that's kept police chasing shadows for nearly 2 decades. What followed exposed a feud written into Glasgow streets, one carved in blood, betrayal, and fear. This is the story of Billy Bates, Deco Ferguson, and the feud that refused to die. Welcome to Crime Pulse. If you're new here, hit subscribe and join our community unraveling the UK's darkest cases. Like, share, and turn on notifications so you won't have to miss the twists. Now, let's step into Glasgow's gangland haze. Glasgow's north side in the mid-2000s wasn't a city. It was a pressure cooker with the lid rattling. Heroin poured in through the ports, turning Postle Park and Ruchel into open-air pharmacies, where a £10 bag could buy you a week of hell or a one-way ticket to the morgue. The streets were a battleground for crime families like the Daniels and Lyons, their turf wars over drug routes and extortion rackets soaking the city in blood. Police Scotland's Operation Lockdown, launched in 2006 to choke the heroin trade, only tightened the screws, leaving smaller players to scrap for power in the chaos. In the eye of that storm were two names you didn't whisper, unless you wanted them to hear you. Billy Bates, 37, built like a beer barrel, with a face map of every pub fight he'd won, and a few he hadn't. He collected money the way other folk collect parking tickets, quietly, repeatedly, and always with interest. His shadow was Deco Ferguson, same age, but all wire and nerves, a chunk missing from his left earlobe, souvenir of a Stanley blade in a Milton Close, gave him a permanent half-smirk. Deco didn't need muscle. He had paranoia sharpened to a point. Years of dodging dawn raids had taught him every back door in the city, and every lie that kept him breathing. Bates and Ferguson carved their niche as independent enforcers, untouchable in the shadow of bigger players, running their racket through fear and fists, while the crime lords fought for Glasgow's crown. Together they ran a protection racket, dressed up as a loans company. Addicts paid installments on their habits, or paid in broken bones. Simple maths. The fuse caught on a kid, name still redacted in every police file, who owed thousands, and had nothing left but panic. Cornered, he did what any terrified 20-something does. He ran to the only grown-up he trusted, Thomas Tam Cameron, 49, barman at the Auchinairn Tavern in Bishopbriggs. Tam poured pints with the same steady hand he once used to change his kids' nappies. He wasn't gangland, he was old-school Glasgow, quiet, and carrying a grief that never slept. 18 months earlier, December 2006, his boy Thomas Jr., 21, had been stabbed to death at a house party in Springburn. A nothing argument, a flash of steel, a courtroom shrug of self-defense. The killer walked. Tam buried his son and made a promise to the headstone. No more needless blood on these streets. So when the kid came begging, Tam stepped in. One phone call, one sit down. Cash changed hands. A brown envelope thick enough to quiet the wolves. Bates and Ferguson nodded, shook hands, disappeared into the night. Peace, right? Wrong. In the underworld, debts don't dissolve, they fester. Thursday, 28th June 2007. The air in Bishopbriggs carried that rare Glasgow warmth, the kind that makes the tarmac soft under your shoes, and the lager sweat in your glass. Inside the Auchinairn Tavern, the lights were still on. Tam Cameron moved behind the bar like a man who'd done it for 20 years. White shirt rolled to the elbows, cloth in one hand, half pint in the other. He glanced at the clock above the optics, 6:45 p.m. Outside, a silver Vauxhall Astra nosed into the car park, tires crunching over broken glass. 2 doors opened. Billy Bates stepped out first, shoulders hunched, fingers drumming his thigh like he was counting heartbeats. Deco Ferguson followed, slower, eyes everywhere. The missing chunk of his left earlobe caught the last of the sun, like a warning. Tam set his cloth down, left his pint half drunk. "A word," he said to the barmaid, "just that." He walked out through the side door. The beer garden was quiet, a couple of smokers. The 3 men met in the shadow of the wheelie bins, handshakes, nods. Voices low enough that the traffic on Kirkintilloch Road swallowed the words. 10 minutes. That's all it took for the mask to slip. Sources say Deco leaned in. "You shorted us, Tam." That envelope was light. Tam didn't back down. Not his style. Words turned to shoves. A palm to a chest. A finger in a face. Then, 6:55 p.m., the night cracked open. A single sawn-off shotgun blast. Close range. The slug punched through Tam's chest like a freight train, shredding heart, lungs, everything that kept a man standing. Blood misted the air, spattered the bins, painted the Astra's wing mirror red. Tam took 3 stumbling steps, hands clutching at nothing, before he folded beside the wheelie bin. His white shirt, now a butcher's apron. Deco was already moving. Billy behind the wheel, engine snarling. The Astra fishtailed out of the car park, tires screaming toward the M80. Inside the pub, the gunshot registered as a dull thud through the wall. A regular halfway through his pint let his glass slip. It hit the floor and rolled, lager foaming across the tiles. A man in the corner pulled out his phone, then pressed 999. The ambulance pulled in at 7:03. Paramedics found Tam on his back beside the wheelie bin. Shirt soaked dark. They started compressions immediately. No response. He was lifted onto the stretcher and blue lit to Stob Hill Hospital and pronounced dead at 7:27. A father of 3, gunned down for trying to keep the peace. By 5:45, Police Scotland's major investigation team worked in silence. 27 spent casings, bagged and tagged. The Astra, found torched in a Cumbernauld lay-by before the sun was up. But the message was loud. Tam Cameron had paid the ultimate price for stepping between wolves. And the wolves, they were already running. The shooting left evidence in plain sight. Kirkintilloch Road, at that time, carried a steady traffic. A woman at the bus stop saw the flash and the passenger's face. She later identified the missing section of the left earlobe. Billy Bates left his flat in Postle Park that night. The door unlocked, a drawer open, fridge light still burning. No one in the close reported hearing him leave. Deco Ferguson remained in the area. For another 10 to 14 days, he was seen in the Auchinairn bar on Balmore Road. Regulars noted he appeared agitated and under the influence. He told an associate, "Billy will talk if they pick him up." By 10 July, the major investigation team had warrants. They searched Deco's lockup in Milton Industrial Estate and recovered 6 burner phones. One contained a message. "Sort it before he talks," sent the day after the shooting. Bates was listed for interview, but Bates could not be located. On Saturday, 28th of July 2007, a council dredger working the Clyde between Old Kilpatrick and Erskine recovered a 44-gallon oil drum. The lid was forced. Inside was a body, bound with duct tape, knees to chest. A gold signet ring engraved BB confirmed the identity, William Bates. Post-mortem on July 30th recorded multiple skull fractures, 11 broken ribs, and water in the lungs. Death occurred between 14 and 21 July. The drum contained 3 house bricks for weight. It had entered the water from the Erskine Bridge walkway and drifted 2 miles downstream. Forensic examination found smudged prints on the exterior. 1 partial thumbprint on the inside lid matched records from Deco's Milton lockup. Bates had been killed to prevent him speaking to police. Deco Ferguson did not flee without a plan. Within days of Billy Bates's body surfacing in the Clyde, he was smuggled south across the border, hidden in the false compartment of a heavy goods lorry, carrying scrap metal from Glasgow docks. He resurfaced in Amsterdam by early August 2007, traveling on a forged passport under an assumed name. His head was shaved clean, hair later dyed dark to match the new identity. From there, his path branched out across Europe, back roads through rural Ireland to evade checkpoints, then south to the Costa del Sol in Spain, circling back to the Netherlands' red light districts where contacts could provide safe houses and clean papers. Now 59, Ferguson has become a shadow in plain sight. Police Scotland's 2023 EvoFit images, generated with forensic psychologist Professor Charlie Froud, depict a gaunt, lined face, cheekbones sharp, skin weathered from years on the move. The missing top of his left earlobe may have been surgically repaired, and his once thick hair is balding, often concealed under a baseball cap or flat cloth. Spanish authorities rank him among their top fugitives, with intelligence placing him as an enforcer for the Kinahan Cartel in Marbella, handling collections and laundering cocaine proceeds through waterfront bars and charter boats tied to local expat networks. Sightings have been sporadic, but persistent. In 2015, a tip from a Calahonda bar owner reported him in Malaga, blending into the old town's narrow streets before vanishing overnight. 2 years later, in 2017, he was spotted back in Scotland, sipping pints under a false ID in a Partick pub, gone by first light when officers arrived. Interpol's Red Notice, active since 2007, describes him precisely: 5 feet 2 inches to 5 feet 6 inches in height, around 160 pounds, green or blue eyes, white ethnic appearance. He has a small scar on his right jawline, tattoos on his forearms, a heart pierced by an arrow, a dagger, and speaks with a Glasgow accent. But the net has tightened. The 2020 to 2023 EncroChat busts, where French and Dutch authorities hacked the encrypted network used by organised crime, uncovered messages hinting at Deco, directing hits and shipments from overseas. Though nothing conclusive enough for charges, Police Scotland's Fugitive Active Search Team, in coordination with Operation Captura, relaunched appeals in 2022, boosting the Crime Stoppers reward to £10,000 from £5,000 the previous year. Detective Chief Superintendent Paul Livingston stated then, "Our extensive inquiries have never ceased, which underlines our unwavering commitment to tracking down Deco Ferguson." 18 years later, Ferguson's network buys him time, but the silence is cracking. The story should have ended with Billy Bates in the drum. It didn't. It moved down the bloodline. 11 years later, on the night of the 18th of November 2018, Billy Joe Bates, 28, nephew of the man pulled from the Clyde, was in a flat on Scaraway Street, Milton. He owed £5,000 on a cocaine debt. The knock came after midnight. He opened the door. Words were short and he ran. They caught him on the 3rd floor landing. 17 stab wounds, chest, back, arms. He was still breathing when the ambulance arrived at 12:47, but was pronounced dead at Glasgow Royal Infirmary at 1:26. The killer was Dean Ferguson, 30, son of Deco Ferguson. Dean had been living in the Netherlands, moving between Rotterdam and Amsterdam, using the same lorry routes his father had taken in 2007. Dutch police picked him up in May 2022 after a European arrest warrant. He was extradited within 48 hours. At the High Court in Glasgow in January 2024, Dean Ferguson pleaded guilty to culpable homicide. The Crown accepted the plea. He was sentenced to 7 years and 4 months. The evidence that sealed it came from the EncroChat takedown. One message, sent in March 2020 to a handler in Glasgow, read, "Sort the Bates lad, family business." Billy Joe was William Bates's nephew. They were connected only through the 2007 events and the drug trade that followed. The message confirmed the motive, a continuation of the 2007 feud. Dean Ferguson acted on behalf of his father's interests, eliminating a Bates family member to assert control in the same territory, a calculated move in a long-running power struggle. The EncroChat breach also brought down Jamie Iceman Stevenson. In 2023, he was arrested in Portugal and extradited. He had run a £100 million cocaine pipeline through the same Postle Park and Milton corridors Ferguson once controlled. Stevenson pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 20 years. Tam Cameron's widow still lives in the same house in Bishop Briggs. She has not spoken publicly since 2017. That year, she told the Daily Record, "Tam died trying to do the right thing. Ferguson is still out there. 3 dead, 1 in prison, 1 on the run." The debt that started with a frightened addict in 2006 has not been settled. October 2025 marks 18 years since Tam Cameron was shot in the car park of the Auchinairn Tavern. No arrests, no trial. The file sits with Police Scotland's Cold Case Unit, where officers continue to sift through 1,200 witness statements, and 400 forensic leads. The shotgun slugs recovered from the scene have never been matched to a weapon. The Vauxhall Astra's VIN plate was too damaged by fire to trace. EvoFit images are updated annually. The most recent from 2023, showing Ferguson aged 59 with a thin face and possible changes to his appearance. The Crime Stoppers reward remains at £10,000 for information leading to his arrest. In a 2023 appeal, Detective Chief Superintendent Vicky Watson, head of the Fugitive Active Search Team, stated, "Our fast investigation will continue until Derek Ferguson is located and arrested." Similar resolve has been echoed in prior years, with officers warning that international cooperation leaves fugitives with nowhere to hide. Do you know where Derek Ferguson is? Contact Police Scotland on 101. Crime Stoppers anonymously on 0805 55 111. No detail is too small. Your information could bring justice after 18 years. For more deep dives into Scotland's unsolved cases and the shadows they cast, subscribe to Crime Pulse. Hit that bell, share with a friend who loves a good hunt, and join the community keeping these stories alive. Justice waits for no one, but it starts with us.